AskReddit by 5H0GK4C4NDL. Adults of Reddit, what is something about the newer generations that you can't seem to understand? Recording yourself crying. This is the one. I do not know how intense your desire for external validation has to be for you to be in the midst of crying and think lights, camera, action baby, let's make sure as many people see this as possible. The emails I get from my students aged 18-25 are such a mess of incoherent garbage. I can't tell if they are lazy or if it's an actual literacy issue. And I'm barely older than they are, so if this is a generational gap, it happened quickly. My daughter was just telling me yesterday how many of her peers can't read. I think it's an actual literacy issue. Apparently, despite growing up with technology around them, they don't know how to use computers properly because they focus mostly on smartphones and tablets. Teaching every new hire how folder trees work is so weird. Don't save to desktop, follow naming conventions so we don't have to fix things server-side, and so on. When I was 12, someone told me that the newer generations will be better at understanding computers than I will ever be. It really put a damper on me because I loved computers. I always imagined I will just be lost while the new kids told me how to fix problems. This is not how it turned out. Edit. This kind of blew up and not in the way I expected, and some of you had some cool perspectives I can keep in mind when teaching newer hires. And to all the millennials, like me, you brought back so many memories from the old world of computers. The lack of understanding that things put on the internet are public forever. 37-year-old attending college for the first time here. They have negative confidence. They barely speak above mumble, especially when answering a question from the teacher. Most of them would rather die than talk to someone they're interested in. It's like 90% of them are cripplingly introverted. I went to school as an older student. I was 24. Most people in my classes were 18 or 19. It was really weird to see how much growing up I'd done in 6 years. Time management was probably the biggest difference. We were saying what we would do if we won the big lottery jackpot. The new 22 years old hire said he'd become an influencer. Can you imagine winning $1 billion at 22 and that's what you would do? Not start a business, travel the world, charity, sports, property, learn something, but become an influencer with $1 billion. I mean, like he's gonna hire a marketing company to fabricate interest in his social media? He's gonna spend money on stupid things to make people cringe or rage comment? With $1 billion. Just thought that was a weird and low bar and was hard to understand. Yeah, it like the old expression. You know what's better than being rich and famous? What? Being rich. Who the hell would want to be famous? Everything seems to have a label. Not just people and groups, but every concept or just generic thing that is popular has to be given a label or a hashtag. I find it so weird, especially when it's something that people have been doing forever, but now Gen Z have discovered it. It's got some brand new buzzy hashtag label as though it's just been invented. I brought a notepad and with yak now notes on it when I was upgrading some tech, and the salesperson 2 times asked told me I was OCD for having it. My friend, having notes on a notepad instead of my phone does not make me OCD, and bold of you to armchair diagnose someone while working at Best Buy. No shade to retail workers, I am one lol, but seriously. Taking public calls on speakerphone and sending voice messages. Anyone who plays anything through their phone speakers in an enclosed public space needs a good slap. Why do they go to the movies only to scroll through their phone the entire time? And then use their phones to complain that the movie they didn't watch didn't make any sense? I'm in my 40s and I manage a small group of people who are in their 20s to early 30s. What I notice most is how anxious and fearful they seem to be. Everyone is out to get them. I often get approached by subordinates who want me to do something about a colleague who is doing them wrong in some way. After I gather more information, it almost always is a case of poor assumption about someone else's intentions, coupled with a desire to jump to the worst case scenario. If I ask them a series of probing questions about other possible interpretations, they often admit they didn't consider those possibilities. The other thing is too much bravado, overconfidence in their knowledge, skill or ability in an area. I think it's potentially a defense mechanism to combat the fear in the people they think are out to get them. What gets me is my students seem to think it's fine for them to be very rude, but when others are rude to them they immediately lodge a formal complaint. I get being a polite, kind person who is upset when others are rude, and I get being a bit of a dick who can take others being the same way. But the frequency of kids who can dish it out but can't take it seems very, very high to me. I manage a lot of fresh graduates in my job, and I don't understand how in the space of just 2 years, during COVID, we went from great graduates, able to operate independently and work things out themselves, to graduates who need their hand held for the most basic tasks. As a millennial, both the older and younger generations are lacking. I've had to help my boss, who claims to have 30-year experience, send a damn Excel file. Or help them upload files to the cloud. Or even using our one software is a challenge. The younger ones just don't even try. I don't understand why most of them want to look rich with expensive shit and most of them act like they run businesses or something. They take pictures with cars that are not theirs, for example. Dude, chill, you're 16. TikTok is an actual news source for some. This one is fucking terrifying. The rapid pace of technological advancement leaves me baffled. How do they effortlessly navigate through endless streams of information while maintaining attention spans shorter than a goldfish? It's because they are navigating through a stream of endless information that they have no attention spans. It's from one piece of info to the next. No time to sit and read more. There's more new info out there. Specifically Gen Z, but how bad their general lit skills have gotten. I thought the most modern generation should be on the bleeding edge of the most modern technology. But most Gen Z that I meet are clueless about tech that isn't on their phones. Seems like less and less people are using actual computers for stuff, so those soft skills are disappearing fast. Their dependency on authority and lack of self-reliancy. You have access to all the world's knowledge in your pocket, but you are only using it as a toy, and when you need to learn something you are looking for a teacher. The self-censorship that they've adopted in response to social media, to the point that it creeps into other platforms and even daily speech. For example, unalive in place of suicide. I'm in my mid-30s and remember the freedom of the early internet where people would have moved to a different platform if forced to curtail their speech like that. Now, they seem to have just rolled over and accepted it. It's common to see posts on Reddit using these infantile euphemisms despite there being no such restrictions here. It worries me about what other restrictions they're willing to accept just to participate in popular social media. Mind-boggling when network TV seems more risque than the internet. I have yet to hear anyone say unalive or SAR on the tube. How pulling up white socks with sneakers was the most unfashionable middle-aged American dad clothing in the entire world. To being fashionable. Socks with sandals too. And mustaches. Kids today think dressing like a dorky dad 30 years ago is cool. I laugh at them all the time. They've apparently lost the ability to step outside their comfort zone, I think. All that happens have to be safe and secure, otherwise it gives severe anxiety. No need for exploration, adventure. To me it seems that they've taken the approach that they should never be forced to go out of their comfort zone, and if they are, then their rights and needs are being violated. Which on one hand, I'm happy that they advocate for their rights so strongly. On the other hand, life is never going to be one comfort ride all along. You will experience rough patches, and if you've never been challenged or you've been never out of your comfort zone, then of course you're going to have severe anxiety. Being forced to go beyond your comfort zone occasionally is necessary for life, Being forced to operate always outside of your comfort zone is not okay, and I'm fully in support of them for advocating against it. But never facing a situation you're not comfortable with is not really comparable to this. The degree of freedom, autonomy, anonymity, and above all, forgettability we had growing up. Aside from a few pictures and family stories, there's nothing left of my childhood. All the terrible opinions I had, all the dumb things I did, all gone. The only thing that remains is the adult I eventually became. The if I can't see a video, it didn't happen concept. There's no storytelling anymore. If you want someone to see something you saw, you just show them a shitty recording of it on your phone rather than painting a mental picture with words. Usually the story is funnier when told right anyway. Terrible for personal privacy and even worse for making you interesting. Then we wonder why they can't describe anything to save their lives anymore. Their inability to see the nuance on a lot of issues. It's black or white for them, completely ignoring the multitude of layers and shades of grey that exist in the world. They don't go out. Their friends are on social media or online, so there's very little going out. Also, a marked disinterest in dating. Have you actually been on a dating app in the last few years? It's a hellscape. All the learned helplessness. Google is right there, as is the Reddit search button, but the go-to is posting the same threads that you can see half a page down on whatever sub they are posting on, because moving one's eyes down slightly to read is too much effort. Their need to label themselves, and then after labeling themselves, the great effort they put into conforming to the labels they gave themselves. They don't allow themselves to grow and change because they are too busy trying to adhere to whatever labels they've already assigned themselves. Kids have always tried to define identities, but there are just so many labels now that it must be confusing as hell.